Welcome to Stack City from WHM Games, created by Quinn Biesinger. Stack City is an engine-building, resource management Euro-style game where 4 enterprises go head-to-head to stack and build a 3-dimensional metropolis. Whoever grows the economy the most wins the game. First, let's set up the game. Place the game board in the center of the table. Put aside the starter enterprise cards, theater, restaurant, church, and school. Next, lay out several action cards. Top row of 5 action cards valued at 1 million. Middle row valued at 2 million. Bottom row valued at 3 million. Then place the remaining enterprise building cards like this. Additionally, place the key to the city card here without an action card beneath it. Next, place your permits here, face up, showing their specific enterprise color. Now, place the matching enterprise buildings on top of its card. Separate and place the money here, and the action cards are placed face down in a pile here. The discard pile will be next to it. Next, everyone draws a random starter enterprise card, theater, restaurant, church, or school, and collects the matching building as well as their matching color player piece. Each enterprise differs one from another for asymmetrical gameplay. For example, entertainment businesses collect action cards easier than others, while business enterprises earn more money, community enterprises construct more common buildings, and services gather more building permits. Buildings come in different sizes, covering 1, 2, or 4 spaces. Every space taken up by a piece equals the amount of spaces the player piece moves around the game board. If I played 2 houses and a complex, that would equal 4 spaces, and I would advance my player piece 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces on the game board. Additionally, common buildings can be stacked up 4 levels. Houses are 1 level, complexes are 2 levels. Therefore, 4 houses can be stacked, or 2 complexes can be stacked, or 1 complex and 2 houses. Enterprise buildings and condemned buildings are the only buildings that can be stacked on top of the 4th level. Advancing your player piece only counts for the amount of squares a piece takes up. The height of the piece does not affect the player piece movement. Common buildings are key to expanding your presence on the board. You can place common buildings anywhere on the open playable board space, or stacked on top of another common building. Common buildings can only be acquired through enterprise card rewards or from action cards. Enterprise buildings are your key to gaining major rewards and economy points. Economy points are shown in the purple diamond on the top right of the card. This card earns 1 economy point, while this card earns 4. Any player can buy any enterprise building. The cost of each enterprise card is shown in the circles at the bottom of the card. This card would cost 1 pink permit, 1 orange permit, 1 blue permit, and $1 million. Each enterprise you own increases the amount of rewards you collect each turn. Owning this enterprise, the theater, you would collect 1 pink permit, 1 gray common building, and 1 action card each turn. If I buy the hospital, each turn I would now collect 1 pink permit, 1 blue permit, $1 million, 1 gray common building, and 1 action card. Enterprise buildings must be stacked on top of common buildings, such as houses and complexes, and not directly on the game board. Utilities are the white buildings. These buildings do not provide rewards each turn and only count for economy points at the end of the game. If there isn't room on the game board, that building cannot be purchased. Only 1 enterprise building can be purchased on a turn. There are 2 action cards that condemn a common building on the game board. This action card has to be played immediately when the card is acquired and counts as a negative economy point at the end of the game for the player who acquired it. Condemned buildings must be placed on a common building, a house, or on half of a complex, preventing any further building on top of the condemned building space. Permits can be collected through several methods, from enterprise card rewards shown at the top of each card, by drawing action cards that give you permits, by trading 2 permits of one type for 1 of another type of permit from the permit office. This can be done once per turn. Buying a permit from the permit office for $4 million, also once per turn, or trading with another player. Money can be collected in 4 different ways: by collecting rent during the rent phase, as a reward from enterprise cards, through action cards that give you cash bonuses, or by trading with other players. Action cards are acquired 3 different ways: by purchasing off the top of the deck, or collecting via enterprise card rewards, or as a reward from purchasing any enterprise. The back of each action card has the purchase price. The top card is the only available card for purchase, and each card can cost either $1, $2, or $3 million. Any number of action cards can be purchased per turn. However, action cards acquired during your turn cannot be played until your next turn, unless the card specifically says so. Red cards must be played immediately. Any number of previously owned action cards can be played on the same turn. Once an action card is played, it is discarded and cannot be played again. Gameplay follows 3 key phases each turn. The first phase is the rent phase, followed by the reward phase, then the action phase. In the rent phase, players collect rent based on the number of buildings they have on the board. The more buildings you place, the more rent you collect, and this is tracked by your player piece on the outside track of the board. If your player piece has advanced to this spot, the rent collected on the turn would be $3 million. If your player piece has advanced to this spot, the rent collected on that turn would be $5 million. The second phase is the reward phase. You'll collect the bonuses displayed in the squares at the top of your enterprise cards that I've previously explained. The third phase is the action phase. This is where the real strategy begins. Here's what you can do in any order during this phase. Number 1, build common buildings that were collected in the previous phase. Buy and build any specialty building if possible. Please note that this can only be done once per turn. Number 3, play previously owned action cards. Number 4, buy new action cards. Number 5, trade permits or money with any player. Number 6, trade or buy permits from the permit office. Here's an example of a typical turn. The first phase is the rent phase. My player piece is here, so that means I get to collect $5 million. The second phase is the reward phase. I get to collect 1 pink permit and 1 blue permit. I also get to collect 1 common building and 1 action card. The third phase, the action phase, I'm going to move my player piece 1 because of the common building that I built. I'm also going to be able to purchase an enterprise building over here. So for the cost of 2 orange permits, 1 green permit, a blue permit, as well as $3 million, I can purchase the dealership and place that there. I get to move forward 2 more spaces because that took up 2 spaces on the player board. I also get to collect the card plus the action card underneath as my reward, and I stack that on top. To finish my turn, I've got a little extra cash, so I am going to buy 1 action card. The game ends when a player reaches 32 build spaces or when all available buildings have been placed. It is not uncommon for there to be 1 or 2 4-spaced economy buildings that cannot be purchased and played on the board because the space has run out. The player with the most building spaces marked by the player piece on the outside track of the board claims the Key to the City card, which is worth 2 economy points at the end of the game. Add up all your remaining permits and money, divide the amount by 5, and that equals additional economy points. Add up all the economy points from the enterprise cards and from the action cards. The player with the highest total economy points wins. The first tiebreaker is the player who won the Key to the City card. The second tiebreaker is the player who has the most enterprise buildings. The third tiebreaker is the player with the most combined permits and money left over at the end of the game. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoy playing Stack City.